Yo, what's up YouTube? Firefist Chris here, and today I'm bringing you guys an updated deck profile of my Rebecca list. I made a couple changes to it. I ended up winning store championships last Thursday with this list, and I'll just go straight into the matchups as well as the tech choices that I made and go straight into the list. I ended up going 5-0 with this list. I was very fortunate that I did not end up seeing any type of blue croc, which is this deck's worst matchup. But in general, I think the deck, it's a great deck. You just kind of have to practice a lot with the deck to be able to see what combos you can do with it. So obviously we'll just get straight in. For Rebecca's, this is a searcher of the deck. It gets your trash filled. Enough said about that card. The next card, for Gyatz. So Gyatz is a 2K counter that's searchable, as well as it's useful in some matchups against Zoro or even Law. Just getting rid of stuff or attacking into their board is really good. Then we have 3 Leos. Leos, I cut down one of them just because it was becoming too many in hand. It's a good card. Sometimes it could be dead depending on your board if you don't see a Lumbus or anything that can reduce cost. And I do have tech choices in the deck that actually the reason why I cut down on it. 3 EDOs. So EDOs you need for late games. A lot of times you need to be able to have a searchable blocker. Bartholomew is a great card. However, it's also your 2K. So sometimes it's kind of iffy playing it as a blocker as opposed to just keeping the 2K in hand. So EDO is really important for that. Next card, obviously we have is for Bartholomew. It's a great card, 2K and a blocker. It's honestly very versatile in the deck. Next decision I had cut down, 1 Kyros. So I run 3 right now. Kyros is a great card. A lot of times in most, I would say, matches, you don't ever have to find the 4th one. 3 is a good number just because it's, it is searchable and you don't want to have too many to be able to play. So next card I run, 2 Tashigi's. Tashigi's a 2K counter, as well as the ability to reduce costs if you don't have Lumbus is really useful, especially in some matchups where you kind of need to see Lumbus. It's just extra cards of it, and it kind of acts as a blocker where they have to attack into it. Next, the Heart and Soul of the deck for Lumbus. You kind of want to see this against every matchup, honestly. It's just really good. Some matchups, they can't deal with it or get rid of it at all if you don't attack. Some of them, they can get rid of it. So just being smart on how you play your Lumbus or what you're trashing or what you're putting back to your bottom is really useful in this deck. So one of the tech choices is Cavendish. Cavendish is pretty much just a mini Luffy. However, this in combination with the 10-drop Kuzan makes it to a point where you can just pop 5 drops for free while attacking into board. So this is useful against Dofi. This kind of just wins you the Law matchup, honestly. If they have... You bring this out, it kind of acts like a mini Fire Fist. You're attacking into the board, popping a 1-drop. Just a really good card. And as well as it gives you cards into your trash as well. Next, 4 Sabos. So Sabo, obviously, it's a great card. It's a blocker where you can fix your bad hands or dead hands. Not much else to say. It's a 5/6 blocker. Some matchups it is very important, like I would prioritize this in the Zoro matchup, making sure you have Sabos as well as against any type of yellow, just so that way by the time they 10-drop, you want to have to clear the board so when they do 10-drop, they only have Katakuri as their only attacker, so that way you can just block instead of having to send a card from your hand. So now for the tech choice for this deck, and honestly the reason why it's been doing so good for me is 3 GARPs. So GARP makes it a situation for a lot of decks where, especially like yellow, for an example, where they either have to Thunderbolt it. It's kind of hard to even attack into it. Kind of makes your leader 6K, as well as you have like a series of blockers, or if you can chain Sabos with the GARP or a Lumbus, it's kind of GG. This card is just really good. You don't really mind the sending the cards out of your hand, just because technically with your leader, you're kind of drawing 2 cards every turn. So playing this on curve and popping a 4-drop instantly is really good. So on your turn 5, your Dawn 5 turn, say if you're playing against Dofi, you can go ahead and just pitch a card, pop their Nami that they just played and got a search with, and without having to do Lumbus, pop something else, drop Leo, and having all those pieces, you just need 1 GARP and it does the same thing. I can't say enough about GARP. This kind of helps you win the yellow matchup. you kind of want to just see GARP or try to mulligan for GARP and have it out as early as possible to stop pressure from attacking into your life. So 3 GARPs. Probably, I'm just thinking about the ratios. I kind of want to bump it up to 4. Sometimes I feel like in certain matchups you just kind of have to have it. But we'll see. This is just the list for right now. Next, I run 4 Luffys. Luffys, I do see people cutting them down to 3, and I get why. However, in some matchups, it becomes very necessary to see Luffy, like against Queen or against Yellow. If they have enough Katakuris and they're just putting them in your life, and save one if it's already in your life, you might not have any in deck. You can kind of just deck yourself out if you don't see Luffy. So I think it's very important for every Rebecca deck to have 4 Luffys. You need to see the card as one of your most important cards for getting you value and making sure you don't deck yourself out. So Luffy, obviously a great card. It helps close his games. It's kind of the win condition against Whitebeard, against Law, against most of these decks. You just play this and kind of protect the Luffy while having your trash as well. Next, 2 Kuzans. Kuzan's very good card. Kuzan combination where Lumbus kind of wins you that yellow matchup unless they have Thunderbolts, like multiple Thunderbolts, because that's kind of why you want to have the GARPs. They're probably more than likely going to try to kill that GARP with Thunderbolt, which is fine. Prioritizing getting the 10 drop on curve as well if you do manage to go second against yellow. So it's 10 drop. Next, then we have 3 Colosseums. I did want to cut it down to 2 because sometimes it can be dead, but you need to see this card. It's like even if you draw multiples, you can fix your hand with Sabo, you can pitch it with GARP. So there's ways to get it out of your hand, but it's just very important you see it. When I was testing 2 out, I was coming to situations where 1 would be in life and 1 would be at the very bottom of deck, and then at that point you're playing most of your match without having any type of rush with your characters. So it's just very necessary that you see this card. Then we have 2 King Kong guns. King Kong gun obviously just helps wins games. I wouldn't run any less than 2. 3 sometimes can be a little too much, especially early game. You don't really want to see this card. A lot of times I find myself trashing it and then kind of putting it to the bottom so that way it comes up sooner when it's closer to late game. Then for the removal, I'm only running 2 3000 Worlds. Because I added GARP, I took out the Treno Bastardo as well as a 3000 World. So GARP kind of does the same thing. One more Dawn and you're pitching a card. Now they have to get rid of something on board as opposed to when you just play the Destructive Sword. And at that point, you're removing something, but you're not really establishing anything on board. So that's kind of the idea behind GARP. And then for the last 2 cards, it is 2 Six King Pistol. So this card's really good just because you do run a lot of cards in your deck with no counter power at all. So you can kind of send like Cavendish, GARPs if you have multiple Kuzans if it's not a good matchup. Even Luffy sometime if you have multiple Luffys in hand or Kiros. It's very versatile for giving you counter. And you kind of need this card. It helps your hand as well. So that way to make sure that you can get your leader's ability off, making sure you can send this card and something else so that way your next turn you can be able to search and fill up your trash as well. As for matchups for the Store Championship, my first round I played against a Big Mom, and that ended up coming up to, it was a grindy game, but it ended up coming to, they did not have any Thunderbolt, and I had double Orlumbus, a GARP, and a Sabo. And from there, I kind of just kept playing stall, playing blockers until I got to my later turns where they have an established kind of board with the 10 drop, and I was removing as many as I can with the Olympus and the GARP as well. However, it just came to a point where you can kind of play the 10 drop afterwards, the Kuzan, and now it makes it so anything they play gets removed. And then I just slowly went for game. Ended up using the Sabo to attack their life with the King Kong gun, making them down to 0, and then just attack the rest of the Dawn on the 10 drop Kuzan. My second round, I can't exactly remember what I played against. However, I do remember having to play against another Katakuri. I played against a Whitebeard, and I played against a Zoro as well in the finals. And thankfully, like I said, there was no blue Croc. And those matchups against red, you just kind of play more long game, removing their threats. Against Whitebeard, it's honestly, you get GARP out as fast as possible, and they can't really remove it. You play blockers down, you remove something every turn. If they play the 4-drop, you remove it. Even if they attack Luffy, you remove it. Same thing with Ace. You kind of just remove everything and then have drop a Luffy, don't attack. And late game, when they play like a blocker or chopper, you remove it with Leo or whatever destruction you have, if you still have the GARP on board. And then you just King Kong gun attack twice, and that's usually game for Whitebeard. Against the Zoro matchup, it's a little hard if they just put all their Dawn and start attacking into you. You just kind of want to hope to see or try to mulligan for Sabos and establish Kyros as soon as possible in that type of matchup. But all in all, the deck really, it did perform well. Ended up going undefeated with this list. If the things I would change, I like this card, the 6 King Pistol. Sometimes I do want to see 3000 Worlds more, so I might want to bump that one back up, just because there is matchups where you want to get rid of things that can't necessarily be popped if it's against black as well. It's just a really good card. But in general, I do like this deck. This is definitely a deck that it's very good for this format. You just kind of have to know how to pilot it or how to play out your turns as well. So that was it. This is Fire Fist Chris. If you guys like the deck profile, please don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. And Fire Fist Chris signing out. Peace.